There are new rules out from the National Association of Realtors all over the national news. Today we're going to talk about it. Yo, I'm Adrienne, a longtime Florida realtor, and I'm here to help you get your Florida life. Happy Wednesday, everyone. If you're new here, new videos come out every Wednesday. You can subscribe to follow along. Today, we're going to talk about all the news coming out of the National Association of Realtors and how it affects you. I see a lot of news about how it affects realtors. You can let me worry about that. I'm going to tell you what I think some benefits for you are and some things I think you should look out for. To start with, I want to kind of give you a little background. If you watch my channel a lot, some of this is gonna be stuff you've heard from me before, but I always think when something national about real estate comes out, one thing you want to be very mindful of is where you're getting your information and how it really relates to your market or the market you're looking in. For instance, I tend to work with a lot of people looking to retire, people looking to buy a second home, a lot of waterfront property, a lot of experienced buyers and sellers. So that is my perspective you're going to hear from me today. Now, understand that first-time home buyers are very important to me. Even though I rarely personally see one, they are what feeds my market a lot of times, or even second home buyer, meaning they're upsizing once second home. Those people often buy the homes up north that my buyers need to sell in order to move down here. So all of that is very important to me. I watch it very closely, but I am most accustomed to working with very experienced home buyers and sellers. Also, we are in a very strong buyer's market here. So a lot of the news I see out there is talking about, well, with such low inventory out in the world, it's going to affect people this way. That's not what I see. I'm telling you this from a buyer's market perspective. By the time we are in a seller's market, it is likely that these rules will have been in effect for a long time. So for me, even to predict how they will work out, I mean, of course, I have some ideas, might be very different. We are also not really going to talk about the lawsuit much. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an expert on this. I kind of believe you take what's happening and you look for the what needs to be done and you go do it. So that's what we're talking about. I'm also not going to talk about commissions on YouTube. We are not allowed to talk about commissions with other realtors. That's a big part of this lawsuit. And I know there's other realtors who watch this. I can't stop them. So I'm not going to come on here and talk specifically about commissions. We're going to talk about what you should be looking for as a buyer and a seller. I'm going to start more with the buyer end, but you want to pay attention if you're a homeowner. One, you may buy someday again, and two, what buyers are doing or what buyers are struggling with or what buyers are going to be doing affects you greatly because you need to attract them to your property if you want to sell. So let's start out with what buyers can expect. The big rule that's been being talked about is before you see one property, before you walk in a door with a realtor, you're going to have to sign something. I think this will actually ultimately have some good ramifications. The difficulty a lot of realtors and people are having with it is before you walk in the door. Now, if I go on a listing appointment, I'm used to signing people up in relationship agreements on listings. But when I go to a listing appointment, I don't walk in the door and say, before I start talking, before I do anything, sign something. Usually I sit down with them. We talk about strategies. We talk about marketing and they get to know me and I get to know them and then they sign. Well, this is going to be different. You can't walk in a door with a realtor without signing something. I think that, like I said, that's a little early. However, the good part about it, I'm not talking legal wise, I don't know. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but I think it will encourage people to find realtors earlier in the process. One thing I have seen over the years, in the last few years, it's become more prevalent to be online and just connect with an agent, and whoever is the first one to meet you at a property is who you work with or who you see that property with. I don't think that's beneficial. I will tell you how realtors work. We buy the opportunity to be the ones that you connect with often on most of those sites. They all work a little bit differently. I have done that in the past and I didn't love it. I got great customers out of it sometimes, but it's one of the reasons I started this YouTube channel, because I really wanted to attract people who were looking for information and service, and this has been very successful in that. And I think that will be more often. People will start to, buyers will be encouraged to look for specific realtors to help them. Now, I do believe there will be, you could sign for one showing or one day of showings, but I think a lot of realtors will say, okay, now we've seen, so many houses on that one page, and now we want some sort of commitment. I don't know what all realtors will do. I generally think, with even before all this paperwork, the best way to buy property is to find a realtor who can get to know you, who can really understand your wants and needs, and stick with them. I have always thought that, and that is what I have seen in my business. I've been very lucky and have had very loyal customers, and I think that has worked well for all. But I'm able to get to know them and really say, I know your grandkid plays piano, so you need a spot for the piano, and here you go. So I have always thought that's the best way. I think that will be encouraging of it. If you're concerned about that because you're moving down here, I will tell you, if you're thinking, oh, but we were going to come down here and then find a realtor, a better option, and this is very normal and has been for a long time, is for you to find somebody from up north. Obviously, if you're coming to Punta Gorda and Port Charlotte, I'd love to help you, but let's say you're watching this and we were really going to Tampa. I'm happy to refer someone to Tampa, but ultimately you're going to want to talk to somebody before you come down. And if you're thinking, but we don't know if we're going to see property, I would line that person up. I have people all the time email me and say, we're going to be in town from April 4th to April 9th or whatever. We don't know if we're going to want to see property, but we're just, letting you know that we're in the vicinity. And then sometimes when they're down, they will say, hey, there's 2 properties I want to see. And we've talked, we've discussed their wants. A lot of times I will kind of plan out things give them suggestions of places to drive by or other neighborhoods if they like certain things. I might not even meet them on the week they're down here, but we just communicate. So if you're feeling like, well, I don't know if I'm going to see houses, it's very normal to line up a realtor just for communication sakes. And obviously you don't have to sign anything just to ask me where to get pizza or whatever. I'm very open about that. I think any realtor out there, or most of them, would be good with that. And if they're not, then maybe it's not a good match. So that's the buyer-broker agreement. Somebody asked me the other day if I thought there were going to be different ones coming out. I have heard most of our forms come from Florida Realtors that most of us use. I have heard that they'll be tweaked a little bit, and I do think some of the brokerages meaning Coldwell Banker, Remax, I'm with Allison James Estates and Homes, or a smaller one. I think some of them will come out with their own form that you can sign, especially maybe a one-pager, like you just want to go in one house. I've also had questions about open houses, and I have gotten differing information myself on that, so I will keep you posted on whether you will need to sign something to go into an open house. The risky part of all of this is if you do flippantly see property with someone. In the past, you might have said, I don't like them, I'm going to call somebody else. But if you've signed something with them, it is possible that if you go to buy that, you're working with them. It has been a thing for many years where people think, oh, it's better to work with the listing agent, or it's worse to work with the listing agent, whatever you think. A lot of times the people who think they want to work with the listing agent, they think they're going to get a discount. I'm not going to speak to that. I'm not going to speak to commissions. However, I have always thought that is risky behavior. Not risky to work with a listing agent. Let's say you've worked with somebody, you've seen 10 houses with them, and your favorite one happens to be their listing. If you have a good relationship with them, I don't think that's risky. What I think is risky, and we do have rules that we are supposed to follow, but if you're just working with listing agents, you could run across a listing agent who's not really a listing agent, who's got their real estate license and is just listing their best friend from high school's property to do them a favor. It could go fine. It could not go fine. I find that just to sum up, very penny wise and pound foolish. You can disagree with me on that, but that's what I have seen. For sellers, there's a couple of things I want to make sellers aware of in this new ruling. One, and this is another thing that I have thought for a long time sellers should be asking, and they're going to have to ask it even more in the listing appointments. So historically, we have had to join the MLS. Now we will not have to. However, once you put a property on the MLS with an agent, it disperses to all the third-party websites, Zillow, Redfin, Realtor, all of those. And also, I and most agents out there have lists of people that we send emails to with properties. And I'm sure a lot of these people are on other lists as well. But I mean, for me, I have hundreds of people on these lists. If you don't list your property on the MLS, my people won't get them. So I would be asking, not only are you on the MLS, but are you on the local MLS to this property? And the reason I say that, this is something I've seen for years. Realtors who are not belonging to that local MLS will put it on, for instance, the Fort Myers is on a different MLS, and they'll put it on Fort Myers, but they won't put it on the one here. So the people who are on my list and other realtors who are local here's list, meaning people who are very interested in property in this area, don't get it in an email. Now, they may see it on Zillow and they may see it on Realtor.com, and that may be fine. I personally don't think it's as good. We're in a buyer's market. You want to create as much demand as possible. I think that's something you should ask as a seller. I think you should ask, if you have a listing appointment, are you on the local MLS to this property? The second thing I think sellers need to be aware of and to ask their listing agents about is, what's the best strategy for this property? I think that what's going to happen is buyers and sellers are going to negotiate these commissions at a different level, because buyers are going to have something signed like, I owe this person. If the seller does not pay commission, a buyer is going to have something signed saying they will pay commission. In some instances, in a lot of instances that I work with, that's very negotiable. I have worked with a lot of cash buyers, a lot of people who can pay, and there might be advantages both ways. It really depends on the house. I'm going to give you an example, and I'm trying not to mention any numbers in this video because I don't want to talk about commissions. So I'm going to give you a very generalized example. I had a seller in the last 6 months or so, who was selling an investment property in a lower but good price range, and we had multiple offers on it. The two top offers, I assume, I don't know, were first-time home buyers. Neither one of them could put down 20%. Neither one of them, both of them were financing. Neither one of them had 20% to put down. One was very close, but neither had 20%. We also had a cash offer. The difference between the cash offer and the two financed offers would be likely to pay a commission, depending on the agent and what you negotiated, but it would have netted the seller less if they only could look at the cash offer, if they could only look at the person who could pay commission. Now, I don't know, the top two couldn't pay commission, but they didn't have 20% to put down, so I'm guessing they didn't. The cash offer actually provided proof of funds, had ample funds to pay commission. But if that is all we opened it up to, we would have missed out on the other two. Now, there's a lot of people saying that maybe buyers just won't pay commission, or buyers in that situation, will get somebody to open the house for them. I find that very sad as someone who, again, doesn't see a lot of the first-time home buyer, but I feel like that group could use a lot of assistance and really should be purchasing things that they understand so they can get into the market, sell those properties someday, and move up. So I find that very sad. We will see what happens with that. I want people to get the most service that they can, the most knowledge they can, so they make the best purchasing decisions. I think that the whole real estate community benefits when people are making good decisions and understanding what's going on. Not just the real estate community as far as realtors, but buyers, sellers. The better everything works, the better off everybody is, if that makes sense. So that's what I am seeing with the NAR. I would encourage you to talk to realtors early, get a feel for who you want to work with, and go that route. I would have encouraged that 2 years ago had I had a YouTube channel. But here we are. Thank you very much for watching. I look forward to seeing you next week.